Hey everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. I can't believe that we are already at the end of our series. This will be our last episode in our Automating CV Pipeline series, but we'll launch a new series late this summer, so keep an eye out for that. My name is Sally Ann, and I'm a machine learning solutions engineer here at SuperAnnotate, and I'm excited to be presenting our final episode along with my colleague, Arsene, and I'll pass it to you for a short intro.
Hey everyone, really excited for our final series. I'm Arsene, an ML product researcher at SuperAnnotate. Thanks, Sally.
Yeah, thank you, Arsene. One last thing before we get started, be sure to stick around with us until the end because we'll be sharing all the content from our previous epochs. So with that, let's get into it. So for our agenda today, we will start off with an introduction to SuperAnnotate, and then we'll do a review of the topics from our previous episodes. After we review our latest epochs, Arsene will give us an exclusive sneak peek into the back end of SuperAnnotate's automation platform. And then finally, we'll have a Q&A section at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in. So SuperAnnotate was founded in 2018 by Tigran and Valhan Petrosian, our CEO and CTO. We raised $14.5 million in our Series A funding last year, and then brought up our total to $20 million with further investments. We're a global team of over 150 ML enthusiasts, and we're proud to say that we are a top-ranked platform in the data labeling category on G2, and we've even received a high performance badge from them as well. Our offering is split into three categories that, when combined, form a powerful, robust, and efficient suite for all your annotations needs, as shown in this slide here. And we'll briefly dive into each of these. First is our platform. So here you can automate labeling, get unparalleled control of your annotation workflow, quickly spot quality issues in your data, and seamlessly integrate into your existing pipeline. Next, our data ops services. So we've screened over 350 annotation service companies around the world, and we selected the top 40 to be in our marketplace. So our handpicked teams of professionals are all trained on our software so that they can flawlessly leverage the platform's features. Lastly, tying these two options together is our ML Ops Success Program. Our DevOps and ML expertise really sets us apart from our competitors. We serve as an extension to your data teams, so we're not only supporting your labeling dataset efforts, but also setting up and improving your pipelines. Our dedicated account teams include ML engineers, annotation experts, DevOps engineers, and project managers. So from day one, we really provide a white glove service, bringing our best practices to you. And we've had 5 really amazing epochs to this series, all centered on automating your CV pipelines. So I want to step through each of these and highlight some key points from our episodes. And we started off our series with an introduction to the series topic, automation. So Oscar introduced us to manual versus automated annotations and the trade-offs associated with each of these. We learned that automating annotations can be faster and cheaper, leading to more annotation being done. And we can leverage pre-trained models and model predictions to automate your annotation tasks and keep a human in the loop to perform quality check. Automated annotations can be done when some manual annotated data already exists, and then an algorithm can be used to have when an algorithm has decent performance. This visual here really shows off how there are a lot of factors that go into optimizing your project and how balancing them is really key. So in summary, automated and manual annotations are not mutually exclusive, but they're actually complementary. And some general best practices when it comes to automating your CV pipeline are, if automation is possible, go ahead and give it a go. You want to integrate that model into your annotation process as much as you can without compromising on quality. And then, as always, we truly believe that keeping humans in the loop is key to optimizing both speed and quality. So next up, we had our epoch that dove into OCR and its many use cases. We took a look at how pre-processing is especially important when it comes to OCR. And then Armin wrapped us up with a look at how SuperAnnotate accommodates OCR projects in an automation suite dedicated to extracting text for classification. So in summary, OCR really happens in two steps. We have the localization step where you identify where the text is in your digital document, and then a classification step where you actually extract and learn what that text is. And so pre-processing does play an especially important role in OCR work. The right OCR pre-processing can really improve your results. And then lastly, automating text extraction can drastically improve speed and the overall efficiency of your OCR projects. In Epoch 3, we investigated one of the most popular prediction use cases, which is instance classification. Lou introduced us to the topic and explained the many use cases such as parking availability, traffic analysis, agricultural, and life cycle. We discussed manual classification and semi-automated annotation, as well as fully automated annotation workflows. And then Mahan then performed a live demo and investigated the results of a manual versus automated workflow. So to summarize this epoch here, instant classification is one of the most widely used prediction use cases, and it can be performed either completely manually or with some semi-automated or fully automated approaches. And so there's research into manual versus semi-automated annotation workflow on SuperAnnotate's platform. And then we showed that, with the semi-automated annotation workflow, there leads to a quicker turnaround time without having to compromise on quality, which is always the goal with annotation work. And in Epoch 4, we looked at automation for video prediction. I introduced us to video prediction and its unique use cases, as well as the differences between image and video data sets. We drilled into 3 video-specific prediction tasks, including classification. That's when we're classifying a video as a whole. Then temporal action prediction, where we're trying to identify actions that are happening throughout the video. And then spatiotemporal action prediction, where you're not only identifying those actions, but localizing them in the videos as well. And we also discussed the challenges associated with video annotation and how it can be a very cumbersome task. And it's very difficult to be sure that you're accounting for both the spatial and temporal aspects of video data set. We also took a look at the model architecture used for video prediction. And then Eric finished us up with an automation suite for temporal action prediction. So summarizing this epoch here, video does differ from images by having both the spatial and temporal dimensions. Annotating videos can be extremely challenging, and having a good tool is really key to being able to have high quality annotations. And then automating annotation tasks for video prediction can make the process far less cumbersome and improve your overall efficiency. And the last epoch we discussed box to polygon segmentation and the motivations for using this method. We did a deep dive into the state-of-the-art box to polygon segmentation methods, and that include Polygon RNN, Polygon RNN++, Dexter, as well as Curve GCN. And then to end that episode, we did a live demonstration using Dexter, and we discussed the benefits of these methods. So, summarizing this epoch here, the box to polygon method can semi-automate the segmentation of objects. So rather than needing to do the full segmentation, just applying those 4 points to automate the polygon creation can really just speed things up. And that's one of the benefits. And also, there's reduced cost associated with the data annotation, and you can provide high quality data input so that you can train your model and deploy a service. So, now that we reviewed our series and refresh our memories, I'm really excited to hand this over to Arsene so she can give you an exclusive look at our proprietary automation backend. So I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks so much, Sally. Okay. I guess you can see my screen, guys. Yeah. So given all those automations at hand that you've seen in all those epochs, it's really interesting to see how we put this in the actual automation of the annotation pipeline for our customers. And I'm gonna deep dive in the rest of the session and show you how we do that. So as we grow as a company, the challenge for us is really to build as much scalable processes as we can And for that, we really require all the automation tool that we can use to set up and automate every single periodic action that our project admins are setting up for each annotation pipeline. And as a solution for this, we suggest the orchestration system, which is basically an automation environment where you can define all the steps of automation based on certain events that are happening on our platform. I think I'm gonna put this here so it doesn't collapse the slide. Yeah. And for this, we really need to understand the main concept of it before going deep into it. And you really need to understand three main concepts that are the core components of our orchestra environment. First one are the events that are basically actions, any kind of action that is happening in our platform, be the click of a button, the changing the state of the project, doing a given annotation, etc. And then as you have the events defined in the platform, you really want to put those listeners who would check and wait whether the event is happening and catch it so that you can later define the actions based on the event. So those are called so-called subscriptions or listeners to the event. And then finally, as you catch the event, for example, addition of annotation or completion of the project, you really want to have those handler functions or custom scripts, which will give you a list of steps that have to be done as the event is happening on the platform. So basically those three things just connected with each other are building the orchestra environment for each of the annotation pipeline you can imagine of. And of course, it would be interesting to deep dive into real applications and see how this actually works. Before doing this, I want to give you a quick outline on the use cases that I would like to cover here. Of course, the first one would be the automation of data streaming. And by data, I mean like raw data, annotations, any metadata connected to your vision pipeline. The second one would be the notification system. And by this, we mean like instead of those cumbersome conversations and email back and forth, we really want to automate some notifications to help the partners during the annotation process to know whether something has happened, or example, the annotation was completed or the new data was added to the platform. And then third one will be the use case of the complex annotation platform, where we really need to set up multiple stages in our workflow. This is applicable to medical use cases where we don't only need a simple annotation, but also multiple stages of reviews or maybe some consensus computation between different domain experts. The fourth one would be, of course, the QA tools. We really put stress on the high quality data set generation in the platform. That's why it's really important if you can automate the QA checks, if you can define a given quality pattern for the given data set. And of course, whatever pattern we see during our experiences, there's always something custom that we need to have the tools to code and manipulate with. Given all these use cases, let's just deep dive in each of them and see how we automate this using our automation backend. Okay, let's think about the data streaming first. So imagine you have your cloud storage, which stores your data, maybe an AWS bucket, and it contains, let's say, the raw data, which could come from sensors, from cameras that you've set up in your pipeline, and also some metadata, which could be information about like medical patients and so on. And what you want to do is really, you want to import that data to SuperAnnotate with the automation to have the smooth streaming from your cameras to the platform to set up the job of annotations. And then as your annotation is completed in SuperAnnotate, of course, you want to get the data back, maybe in another bucket. And it could be not only the annotations, but also some analytics regarding the process of annotation and maybe some label distribution. Of course, after this, you will have your other pipeline, which could maybe connect your buckets to Databricks, compute some analytics, or even set a training for you with the SageMaker. So basically, we want to put SuperAnnotate in your pipeline and make the transitions to it and from it as smooth as possible with this use case. Okay, so let's just go and do it with our hands-on in the automation environment. Okay, so as I described, the common use case would be that you have your data stored in AWS bucket. Maybe it's coming from the cameras or some other sensors. And then what you want to achieve in the first step is, of course, streaming this data to the SuperAnnotate project, which I have here, this autonomous driving. Currently, it's clean, but what I want to do, I want to put this periodic automations that will take my data from S3 and put it to the SuperAnnotate. Okay, so for that, of course, you need to define, first of all, the integration between the platform and the S3. As you can see here, we support all kinds of integrations with the biggest cloud providers. And you just need to go and set up a simple integration that will connect your bucket and the project in SuperAnnotate. Okay, as you have done it, you just need one simple code snippet in our automation background where you will define the periodicness of the data streaming and the actions that it actually has to do. So in this small snippet, you just see the import of our Python SDK, which is really powerful to help you to send API calls to our platform, and a couple of environment variables, which are just related to your project, meaning the integration name or the project name. And here is one line of code of just bringing your data to SuperAnnotate from S3. And one thing to note is the schedule of this job to run. So let's say you want this to run every week. Maybe your camera is set up in a way that it streams the data to S3 every weekend. Then you want to set up a job that will automatically stream this data from S3 to SuperAnnotate and set up an annotation for it. Then you will use this scheduling functionality to set up the day in the week. But since we don't have that much time in this tutorial, I'm just gonna set it to run every minute. Okay, so I just saved this job that will run periodically every minute. And as you've seen, like it's 12:20 and it's gonna run on 21 and bring home my data that I have here to SuperAnnotate. Until then, I just want to mention some nice capabilities of our integrations that you don't have to have special folder structure defined. It actually will come and take all the packets, all the folders that you have defined here. So for example, it will have the same folder structure, whatever you have here in the AWS. And one other thing to note until we have the minute running, I also have another bucket defined here. So this would be my custom annotations bucket, which I later want to define another job to bring my data annotations into. Okay, so I have 21 here. Let's go check whether my job was run periodically and I have everything in place. Okay. If I refresh my page over here, I need to see the magic happening. And it's here. You see all the data here. And what is going to happen is every minute, this job is going to check periodically whether I have new data in my S3 bucket and bring it to the platform. Okay, let's actually see it on action, right? So I will go to my bucket again and maybe add new data to it. Imagine this is also happening automatically, like from camera or a sensor. So what I'm gonna do, I will just put another batch of data to my S3. Oh, this Zoom thing is really hiding lots of stuff. Okay, so as my data is added to the bucket, I already have another batch of images uploaded. What I want is really this to be added to the SuperAnnotate project automatically. And I added it to 22, so we will need another minute, I guess, for it to run, because it also has to be updated on S3 bucket. In the meantime, I would like to show you another capability of this automation background. So basically what you've seen here was the periodic jobs, but of course you can set up jobs based on listeners, as we already explained. So the idea behind here, for example, I want my annotations to be exported whenever the task is completed in the platform. Then what I'll do, I will just add a subscription, which will basically be defined as the image status changed to completed. So you have two possibilities, either defining a periodic job or defining the job based on the trigger that is happening on a platform. In this case, the completion of the image task. Okay, so it's already 23. Let's go check our data set. Let's run it. Yeah, so my batch 2 is automatically here. And of course, this I've said just for a minute, but you are free to choose whatever periodicity you want for your task to run. Okay, let's come back to the use cases that we still need to cover. Moving this up a bit. Okay, so the second one was the multi-stage workflow. As I said, in the medical applications, you really have this complex structure of the workflow where you have both the annotations and the initial quality check, but also approval from the expert and the computation of some scores between the annotations of different experts. So let's say you want to understand whether the given cell is classified as cancerous or maybe there is a COVID in the chest scan, then you really need to take into consideration multiple opinions and consider the consensus between them. Of course, instead of like all these back and forth emails that one stage is completed, please go to the quality check or the expert approval, you can set up a pipeline in a way that your stages are actually changing automatically via our automation backend. So what we'll do, you have this folder structure as you've seen in the project. So you will define a given folder for each of the stages, and then you'll automatically move the images from one stage to another as the stage is completed, which you can set by the triggers that I've just shown you on the image or project or folder level. Okay, so another use case would be really the notification system. It happens a lot that whenever the data set is completed, we really email our customers and say, okay, you're ready to take your data and start the training, or drop a Slack message whenever the other way around, like whenever the data is imported and we really need to set up the process. So all of this, because of both Google, Slack, whatever notification system you think of has the API, you can really code it in the automation background, and it will automatically send all those emails and not spend time on the communication back and forth. Of course, the most programmatic way needs to be supported as well. This is basically the webhooks that we will support. And for example, you have your Lambda that is just taking your data as it's ready and running some analytics or running the iterative training, then you really can subscribe the webhook for the events that are happening in the platform, and it will automatically trigger it so that you have all your pipeline set up smoothly there. Okay, so the fourth use case would be here really the consensus. It happens a lot that the same task is given to different annotators, and then the consensus score has to be computed. For example, let me give you some statistics that I've just heard in CVPR actually. So it happens a lot that whenever you're using the landmark annotation of the faces, if you give it to different people, all of them are gonna position the tip of the nose on the same place. But if you think about the chin, then people have tendency to put points in different places. So there is more of a variance in this part of the face. In this case, you really would like to have some consensus annotation as the final for your model to train on, which will be consensus between the annotations of multiple people. And that you can set up over here with the background automation. Again, you just need to define your step accordingly. Again, you can use the folder structure and the movement of items from one folder to another. And of course, you can code any kind of custom consensus computation that comes to your mind, export the data, and maybe trigger a notification. I'll just show you here the short code snippet that we had for one of our customers. So it's basically very custom code for each of the customer that would generate scores and put it in the S3 bucket. So the triggers are the same. The pipeline is the same. It's just you're free to come and customly define each step for you. Okay. So saying that, I really want to stress out here that whatever pattern we see with our customers, there is always something that is custom. And that's the main reason why we have this approach of not putting something really generic that will cover the basic use cases for all the paid people, but building an environment that is free to customize. And here it's also important that since we have all the domain expertise with our solution engineering team, we're really happy to help you to set up this pipeline for your own use case. So what will happen basically in the orchestra environment, we have this handle function, which will be defined based on your use case. It's pretty custom. You can incorporate all the Python libraries that you're interested in for your use case. You can put here all the automation suites that we've described during this series, and just put as much automation in your pipeline as possible. Yeah, so on that note, I would like to stop here and really excited to hear your questions and pass to the Q&A. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Arsene. That was really incredible to see everything we're up to in automations and see how we can actually put some of these topics that we've discussed so far into action. We do have some questions. I think some of them might be towards you. So one of them is, what are the limitations of the orchestra environment?
Yeah, so to put it in the technical terms, we actually use AWS in whole our platform, and Orchestra itself, you can think of it's an EC2 machine for each of the customers. And it basically comes into the limitations of AWS, whatever limitations we have for EC2, we have here, which is not much, like based on the use cases that we've run to, you really can add the memory, add the compute power, define the GPUs, whatever you want to do on the AWS. So I would say just go and check the AWS limitations, but we're free to even combine a couple of instances, run the parallel model of it. So we're really happy to scale as much as we can.
Awesome. Yeah, it's nice to be able to have this kind of automation environment that has no limits to it, and which is, as you mentioned, one of the reasons for how we built it and why we built it that way. We kind of touched on this one already, but can we combine the orchestra with the automation suites from the previous epochs? Absolutely. Everything that we've shown so far is something that we can implement and even fine tune to tailor exactly what you need it to be. And so another one is, this is a good one. I'm sure many have this question. When or are we planning on realizing the end user version of Orchestra, so the customer facing?
Yeah, so since this is planned for the end of the year, because we really need to face lots of security issues before giving this to the hands of the customer, right? That is the first thing, because as you've seen, this is really powerful. You can do any automations, but you can really easily break it if it's not designed in a nice way. So what we want to do, we really want to understand the common use cases to put it in the UI, and then keep the custom version to be built together with our solution engineering team, so that you make sure that you really get the maximum automation, you really get the common use cases, and you don't even have to write code, and it's nice and safe to be there. So I would say end of the year, tune for it.
Perfect. Definitely looking forward to that myself. I'm sure we will get that to our customers as soon as possible. So let's see what the next ones are. I could take this one. It's about, can we import annotations to the platform? Absolutely, we call that pre-annotated data. And so that can be images that you've manually annotated previously, or even images that you used a model to annotate. We can take those all and we can put those on the platform, either just to kind of store or to review visually, or even to leverage one of the neural networks on our platform. Another good one here is, can we manually trigger when a new data is uploaded to the bucket instead of the automatic trigger? Absolutely, anything our scene showed you today, you could go ahead and run a script manually to do. The point of the automation side of things is being able to kind of take you out of having to take that extra manual step to get your data to the platform. But absolutely, any of the automation suites that we showed, or the trigger to push data to the platform, our SDK is actually really powerful for moving data into the platform manually or programmatically. Let's see. Here's another one. It asks if the annotated data will also exist in S3 and if they're versioned or linked to the raw data. You want to expand on that one, Arisa?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we support versioning in the SuperAnnotate. We have this in our nice curation environment. You can always check your data set. If you're happy with it, with the quality of it, you just generate the version as you do in the GitHub. And you always have this list of versions available in the Python SDK. So you can always get the information. This is my data set. It has these versions. I just want to download this one and connect it to the raw data that I have in S3. So since all this information, list of versions, and the annotations for each version is available in the SDK, and of course the metadata for each version, you can always do this connection with the orchestra or with even just the Python SDK, because it's just there.
Yeah, absolutely. Another great one here is about data sets with different formats of annotations and being able to convert them. Absolutely. Through our SDK, you can convert various types of annotations. And when it comes to putting them in our platform, we even have a function to validate that the format is correctly compatible with our platform, and then one function just to upload those pre-annotations. So it's usually, I like to say, 2 functions from the SDK, but if you're going to do some converting between formats, I'll say 3, 1 to convert, 1 to validate, and then 1 to finally put it on the platform. This is another great one. Do we have the capability of selectively moving data from S3 to the platform based on the metadata?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you can access the S3 metadata for each of your images, you can basically search them and then only upload those. But another thing that could be helpful, maybe you just want to connect your whole warehouse to SuperAnnotate, and after this only do your queries or selections based on metadata. What we allow the user is basically not only upload the metadata, but also not only upload the raw data, but also the metadata, which later on can be queried with our curation system. So basically, you just bring everything related to your warehouse and then query afterwards in the platform. This can be done both in the UI and the SDK. So one approach would be connect your whole warehouse and then filter out in SuperAnnotate to send for annotation, or filter out already in S3 and then bring in only the images that are filtered there.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like the idea of, connecting your whole data warehouse. I'm really leveraging all that metadata. It's a great idea. And another one here. This is a little less to do with automation, but more about our tooling ourselves. So I'm happy to take this one. It asks, how easy is it to make semantic, I'm guessing, segments with our tool. And I'd like to say that that's actually one of the founding ideas of our platform. Our CTO has a superpixel algorithm that he worked on when he was getting his PhD. So we have this nice superpixel algorithm that allows you to automatically detect the segments and just kind of click them rather than needing to draw the polygon as a whole. There's a few other features in our tool, but overall, the tool is really built to be easy to use. It's supposed to make placing annotations really efficient and accurate. all with the purpose of providing high quality data. Here at SuperAnnotate, we really take that data-centric approach to machine learning. And we believe that the best way for you to optimize your models is ensuring that you have the highest quality data. So our tool is designed to be easy to use to get you those quality annotations as efficiently as possible. Let's see if we have any others here. I think we might have actually gone through. There was one about object detection and modeling. I think that really depends on your use case and what kind of the data that you're working on. I don't know if Arsene, if you'd like to expand on that, but I really think that that's a tricky question to answer, and it really does depend.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you have to look at the data, also the use case, the amount of your data that you have, whether you want to do future training, have enough data to do enough training. Like here, I would just mention, the smallest architectures that you might use and easy to train on, which would be YOLO, SSD. Later on, we have lots of transformers going on, which are making like the same accuracy, but are very lightweight to train on. So I would really either try the basic methods of YOLO and SSD or go into transformers and try something new, which is basically the main highlight of this CVPR conference.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think it's good to mention that, those state-of-the-art models that, everybody has been, trusted to use. And I think that's always a good place to start. Again, going back to that data-centric approach, right? The models we believe are pretty much as good as they're going to get. And it's really about fine-tuning your data to work with those models.
Mm-hmm.
All right, some other kind of tool-based questions. So I'm happy to take it. One is about that SuperPixel algorithm. It is not available in our desktop version, only our cloud version. And then in terms of data types, asking if our tool is data type agnostic. Currently, we support image, video, and text data. So we have dedicated editors for that. And then right now, our biggest push is for audio and LiDAR, both of which we can accommodate with services. And then this last one is asking, I think this is another one for you, Arsene.
Mm-hmm.
Would we be able to use a custom Docker container for our training algorithm, and then, basically chain the algorithm training process with the annotations?
Sure. Here, I think it's important to know like where the Docker container lies in, whether it's in maybe Lambda or some other server. So since we support webhooks, it's absolutely possible to connect events in the platform to your Lambda, wherever your Docker container will live in. So I see it as just putting a trigger on the annotation completion in the platform, receiving that webhook, and then running the Docker and doing this back and forth again. With the processes that we have in the orchestra. Yeah, absolutely possible. It's just a matter of details. Which machine are you using to put the Docker in? And if it's connected to some server, then just get the webhooks, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes for pretty much any use case in there. It's possible, but what that setup look like, it really depends on all those little details, and that will help us set it up to be the most efficient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that is it for our questions today. I definitely want to thank everybody again for joining us. It's been an absolute treat to be able to do this series, and we're really looking forward to be doing the next one. So keep an eye out for that, as well as an eye out for the recordings from all of these sessions and the content associated with it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.